Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Wellness by JF podcast, and I'm your host, JF. Today, I want us to discuss a bit about a word or two that I've heard being thrown around, especially in the context of what is going on in Kenya. Before we start, grab your beverage of choice and join me as we discuss narcissism and gaslighting. I know that if you've seen the news about what's going on in Kenya, you've heard that word being thrown around. And even in the context of mental health awareness and with the advent of people knowing and being more educated regarding mental health, we've heard the word a narcissist or narcissism being thrown around. And so I thought, why not let's discuss it and let's shed a bit of light into this word that is being said over and over again. A narcissist, in very simple terms, is a person who has an exaggerated sense of self, a person who has excessive admiration about who they are. And gaslighting, which is a word that is almost used synonymously with narcissists and narcissism, is a word that can be used to mean the act of a person who makes you to question your own sanity, to question your reality. People who bring or cause confusion and doubts, that whole activity is what is called gaslighting. So take, for example, a case where you attend a certain church per se, and the pastor or the leader presents some information to you, and in your heart of hearts, you know that this information is not necessarily true, but the pastor almost forces it upon you to accept sometimes that that information is true. Sometimes they do it in the context, like maybe when they picked you up from the crowd and you're standing and they ask you a question, and you know that that information is not necessarily correct, but there's a way they almost like force you to accept. This is narcissism, but in the context of church. You can experience narcissism in your everyday life. You can experience narcissism in the church. You can experience it at work. You can experience it at home, and you can even experience it with your friends. We're gonna go into examples of some world famous narcissists who have already walked the earth and their behavior was found to be suspect. And the one that totally comes to my mind immediately is this leader called Napoleon Bonaparte. And Napoleon was a very brave and well decorated military guy. And he did so much in that time for the French army. But there was one aspect of Napoleon that could not be ignored, and that was his insatiable desire to be almost like worshipped and adored, and his ambition that could not bend irrespective of who he had along the way. Another well-known narcissist is Adolf Hitler, and I'm sure a majority of you know the story of Adolf Hitler. And he also was a person who was so arrogant with how he did his things. And even when he did the Holocaust with the Jews, he did not feel sorry that these were families and people that he was killing and wiping away. In the context of the Bible, I know you know, you've heard the story of Pharaoh. And you know, when Pharaoh was dealing with Moses, God tried a number of times using the plagues to let Pharaoh know that he had spoken to Moses and he had sent Moses to set the Israelites free. But Pharaoh could not let the people go. It took his firstborn to die. That is when he agreed, after all the 10 plagues, including even the river Nile turning into blood. But it took his firstborn to die. And that is when Pharaoh agreed to let the Israelites go. And guess what? Even after letting them go, Pharaoh still pursued them when they were going through the desert and in the Red Sea. And it's when all his people perished and his army perished, that is when finally, I think, in death, he agreed to let the people go. So these are just some of famous narcissists that have walked the earth and that have gone ahead of us. And so if you look at what's going on in Kenya right now with Gen Z demonstrations and maandamano, I mean, you would ask yourself, what exactly is going on that we cannot find a truce, that we cannot find an agreeable point? Because first of all, Gen Z is not an organized group of people, so to speak. Gen Z just represents a group of young people who are fed up with what or how the country is going, and they wanted their voices to be heard. And they tried in their own way to have their voices heard, especially in the online spaces. And when that did not work, they took to the streets. And so once the Gen Z took to the streets, obviously there has to be a reaction. So what was the reaction that came? The first thing that was very obvious with maandamano in Kenya was that there was a lot of excessive use of force and power by the police, because here you are, you see a group of young people marching on the streets, as one politician said, having their iPhone, and eating their KFC and coming in the demonstrations in Ubers. But what is the response that the police gives? The police respond with tear gas, the police respond with water cannons, the police respond with live bullets. And where we're standing at today, you've seen that we've lost a number of Gen Zs. And when you look at the profiles of the people who died, you cannot help but feel very empathetic towards the family. We have young boys and young girls who had just completed their university degrees and were just about to graduate. We have doctors. I think we even have a high school student. And I know that we have a young 12-year-old boy who totally did not deserve to die. And in the context of all of this, you would ask yourself, then as the leader or as the leadership in charge of this particular scenario, what is the response that you could give? And if the response that you give is forceful, almost as if to force these young people into a position, then it's clear that there could be some issues of narcissism or narcissistic disorders. I know that in Kenya, the maandamano has been dubbed a Gen Z maandamano. And it led me to ask a big question. So then why are the millennials? Millennials are the parents of the Gen Zs. Millennials are brothers and sisters of Gen Zs. And I feel that millennials have a part to play in this whole thing. We cannot sit aside and watch as the young people go into the streets without any form of guidance to assist them or any form of support. And I do know that as millennials, we might have attempted to have our voices heard, even with the past regimes, but not to the extent that the Gen Zs have done it. I'm of the mind that millennials can do more. And I know you're asking yourself, so then what can you do? Maybe you have a fear to go out to the street. Maybe you're not as courageous to go out to the street. But what is it that you can do? Some of the things that you can do involve sharing on your platforms right and correct information. Because remember, the maandamano is something that happened online. And so majority of the information was happening online. And therefore, sometimes there could be some loss of information or some misconstruement of the information. So what you can do is you can decide as a person, from a single person perspective, you can decide to be a person who disseminates correct information using your platforms. I know that I've seen a few restaurants here and there that have helped out with food, with water. That is also another way that you can offer support. And of course, when your children or when your brothers and sisters come home, engage with them, listen to them, try and talk it through with them to find out why are they fighting for what they're fighting for, what is the point that they would like to pass across. We have a lot of information that we can use to help support the Gen Z cause. I'm going to go very briefly into some of the characteristics of narcissists. And I know that this is a question that has been asked over and over and over again. What are some of the telltale signs that you can look out for? And the first sign that comes to my mind is arrogance. There's a form of arrogance that narcissists have that is out of this world. Most of the times when you experience it, it even takes you aback, like, wow, how could this person think like this? It's because they're so cut off from the world that they're not able to interact with you at the level that you are in. And so when you notice that extra form of arrogance, that could be a sign that this person is a narcissist. And it doesn't matter whether they're in leadership positions or even in your workplace. Narcissists are found across the table. Another thing is their form of entitlement. Narcissists are so entitled. It's only their thoughts and only their feelings that matter. And they don't care what the other person feels on the other end. A narcissist could be equivalent to a person who has more than enough, like say maybe if you're in the context of food, or maybe say a person is hosting a party, but yet your neighbor next door has lost someone and they're in mourning. That lack of empathy, which again is another characteristic of narcissists, is a sign that this person is cut off from the world as it is. This person is so engrossed in who they are, in themselves. Narcissists are also very manipulative and controlling. They want everything to go their way. They will not give you space. In the beginning, it will look as if they care about you, as if they care about your needs, and as if they relate with you, and you know the other person is the one who's probably not getting you. But once you believe them, they quickly turn around, throw away your needs, and put their needs in the forefront. Another thing that has become apparent even here in the context of Kenya is the lack of taking responsibility for their actions. I had a very sad story of someone who happened to be on the receiving end of some police brutality. And when it became apparent that he had been hurt because of excessive use of police force, people started calling him and threatening him and letting him know that if you go and speak about your issue, or if you go and speak about what happened with you on that day, we're going to come for you and we're going to kill you. This is an example of a narcissist. The police officer in this case used excessive force. The most he could do is be sorry, be empathetic that even his action caused pain, bodily pain, and cost this person money and their mental health. But the response to being exposed, or the response to being held accountable, is I'm going to come for you and I'm going to threaten you and do all of that. That is a clear sign of a narcissist. Narcissists do not take accountability. Even if you show them proof, even if you try to hold them and put them on the spot and show them this is the proof, as we have seen even in the case of the CCTV footages, they will not accept it, they will not take responsibility. And lastly, let me say that narcissists also have an insatiable need for admiration. They want to be held in high regard, and they literally force you to hold them in high regard. It doesn't matter that they let you down, that they're arrogant, that their behavior is not what they said, that they don't keep their word. What they do is that you must, irrespective of what your feelings are, hold them in high regard. And this thing, this characteristic, is what makes them sometimes to cut off anybody who is not towing the line, so to speak. Lastly, I know a lot of people have asked, we found ourselves in this situation. I'm a Gen Z. I believe in the cause. I believe that how our country is going is not the best way to go. I'm experiencing or I'm dealing with a narcissistic pastor. My pastor is manipulative. I see him manipulating my family. What do I do? The first thing that you can do for yourself to be able to come out of the narcissistic hole is to educate yourself. You have to know the telltale signs and the characteristics of who a narcissist is. Once you educate yourself, you will be able to point out and to know the issues or the characteristics that are showing up. So in a relationship, from outside looking in, you're able to realize that no, this person is not taking accountability for their reaction or for their actions, irrespective of what I do. It is in that education and enlightenment that you can be able to take yourself out of relationships that can prove to be abusive and narcissistic. The second thing that you can do for yourself is to create boundaries. Narcissists don't like boundaries because remember, they want to control you, they want to manipulate you. So what do you do to protect yourself? Put up boundaries. Just know that in my case, this and this is unacceptable. For instance, you said that you are going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. If I do not fulfill that part of what I said I would do, it doesn't matter the explanation that I'll give you. There must be a consequence for that. And because narcissists do not like taking responsibility and accountability, once you start putting up your boundaries, the narcissist would have to retreat. The other thing that you can do for yourself is to create a support system. When it comes to mental health, you cannot do it by yourself. You need people who love you and support you through the journey. Remember, when I spoke about gaslighting, I said this is a person who makes you question your own sanity. They make you question your own reality. And so sometimes you would need to go because in a moment of doubt, you ask yourself, wait, did this person actually say this? Did this person actually do that? So sometimes you need to go to your support system to encourage you that yes, this person actually said this or they did that to you, and you are right, you are okay to feel the way you feel. Narcissists make you question your sense of self. They make you question your reality. They make you question if what you're feeling is true. And so the support system helps to keep you grounded. The other thing that you can do is stay calm. Narcissists don't like calm. They like chaotic environments because in chaotic environments, whatever they say, their actions and their words easily go ignored. And so when you stay calm, it's like you pull the rug under their feet. They're not able to continue because you're not engaging with them in the level that they want you to engage with them. And so calmness is one of the tricks or one of the great habits that you can pick whenever you're dealing with a narcissist. Let them go on and on and on, and do not give them the satisfaction of them seeing you break or even getting emotional. Lastly, avoid looking for validation or meaningful or deep conversations with narcissists. I don't know how to put it. By virtue of them being so self-absorbed and being in that bubble where it's all about them and they're perfect and whatever they do. Narcissists cannot and will not be able to give you any meaningful conversation. And so that will always leave you feeling high, dry, angry, sad, and moody. Do not give narcissists a chance. Whenever you realize that the person you're dealing with is a narcissist, just put it at the back of your mind. This person cannot be able to give me what I want. Stop going to them for them to validate your feelings or for them to give you explanations. The explanations will always center and go round back to them. In part 2, we're going to deal with narcissism and gaslighting deeper and in other parts of our lives, like in the workplace, at home, in the churches, in our day-to-day relationships. I've been your host, JF. This is Wellness by JF Podcast. We are the Healing Podcast. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe, and let's see you on the next one.